Processing. All right. Hey, YouTube. Thank you so much for being so patient with me this evening. I was running a little late today because I hadn't had dinner yet, and I was going to pass out if I did not eat. And then I would not be here for you. So, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for allowing me to have dinner before we connected tonight. So, YouTube, welcome. So glad you're here because this is episode 46. Can you believe we're almost up to 50 episodes of our live Q&As? Question for everyone. Now, this is for my chat as well as for all of you watching on YouTube. So comment on this video, YouTube, and let me know what you think. But every time lately we've been here for Q&As, my fam, the chat that you see on the screen that you can join over at patreon.com/LXerotica, typing away, hanging out over here on Discord, they all start calling it kinky church. So I think that maybe we need to change the name of these Wednesday events. Ask Miss Elle Live, maybe. Or how about Kinky Church? You love it? So you all let me know. Chat, Discord peeps, patron peeps, you let me know. YouTube, comment below. Let me know. So, take us to church. All right, Kinky Church works for you. You all just started calling it that shortly after Truth Bombs and Mama Bear Claws. Kinky School. Kinky School. So, whatever you want to call it, we are here tonight to discuss some amazing, amazing questions. So, thank you all for being here tonight. I've got a plethora. I've got a wonderful community right here in my Discord. I see all of you. Hello, welcome. 50 celebration. Do call me guys. Right? Right? Goddess. Kinky Church. It's all coming together. Anyway, comment, let me know. But we are going to tackle some more amazing questions tonight. And my chat, my peeps blew it up. YouTube. You all were very busy this last week because I showed up to a lot of questions. And so we're going to get through as many as we can. I know that the same thing kind of happened last time where we weren't able to get through all of the questions that were submitted that week. So we're going to start off with those questions that we didn't get to last Q&A, and then we're going to jump into new questions. But I don't want to forget about the people who submitted their questions. So everybody, let's get to it. Let's get to it. The first one is Rex in the house. Rex is not in the house, but Rex asked, I'm wondering about your suggested power dynamic during negotiations, weekly talks, and being creative about scene elements. We play with the long-term dominant female dynamic, which varies from nearly equal to strict DS games in periods with high levels of useful service, typically using chastity. Is it a good or bad idea for a submissive male to be horny and in chastity during some of these discussions? Should neither person be particularly horny during these discussions? Is it a good idea for the female to be dressed provocatively during negotiations? Interested to hear your thoughts. All right, everyone. So we have three categories really that our friend laid out for us. Because to me, this question is pretty simple, a pretty easy answer to this. And that is really, let's just break it down. Sounds like an interesting challenge. Well, I mean, I'm not even going there. I hear what you're saying, that yes, if you are horny, you are in chastity, your dominant is dressing provocatively and arousing you, and it's hard to concentrate and you have to power through it. Could be an interesting challenge, absolutely. But he's asking, is it good or bad? It's very black and white, good or bad, good or bad, good or bad. And so let's just break down the three elements that we're talking about that he mentioned: negotiation, weekly talks, and creative scene elements. The question that I would volley back right off the bat would be, what is the goal? What is the goal for each of these? What is your goal for negotiation? What is your goal for these weekly talks? And when she's doing creative scene elements, probably part of play, part of domination. So really the question is negotiation and weekly talks. Should anyone be horny? Should we be in chastity? Should there be provocative dress? Or should this be very formal and serious and we just get down to business kind of thing? And so I would just start off, if I was having this conversation personally, I would volley back, what's your goal? What's your goal for negotiation? What's your goal for these weekly talks? I think we should be in the insane mind. Okay. Agreed. Safe, sane, consensual, right? But horny doesn't mean insanity. Horny does not mean insanity. So I think that, yes, you could be horny and it could be an interesting challenge. But just because you're horny doesn't mean the world stops. Oh my gosh, someone's horny. Stop, suppress it. You can power through it. Okay. So I don't think horny makes you insane. It makes you probably easier to distract. But I don't think being horny is insanity. And so I would ask you, what is the goal? And then my second question is, will being in chastity, will being horny, having the presence of your dom in provocative dress, will it hinder or prevent that goal from being reached? Will it hinder or prevent that goal from being reached? So that's really up to the dominant in this situation here. Why would you be more inclined to push unsafe boundaries, though? Who's talking about unsafe boundaries? I feel like you did a completely different topic shift. Could you elaborate on what you're trying to say there, Matty Ice? Because I feel like your question isn't this. So give me some context for that. So depends on the lack of blood flow to the brain. And yes, I understand. But here's the thing, boys. I know that the experience of being horny is more intense for you. And that's why I'm saying you have to determine what is the goal for the negotiation, what is the goal for the weekly check-in. If the submissive male is so distracted by his own desires that he is incapable of being present, incapable of honoring his dominant, incapable of paying attention, then no, logically speaking, it's not going to produce any of the fruit that you want to get out of negotiation or these weekly check-ins. That's what I'm saying. So boys, I'm not saying get over it. It's not a big deal. I understand it can be intense when you're horny. I get it. But are you stronger than that? Are you just saying that if you're horny, you're completely not in control of yourself anymore? Because that's usually a rapist logic. I'm horny, I see something I want, and I can't control myself anymore, so I'm going to go after it. Boys, you're not going to convince me of that. You're not going to convince me that because you're horny, you're not sane, or you're completely out of control. You're not going to be able to convince me of that. Because that is then placing your identity, it's wrapping your identity and your sense of worth, your sense of power, your sense of self-control. It's wrapping it all up in the experience of sexual arousal. So I think that's we need to delineate that. I think the idea of someone being horny isn't enough reason to lose their sense of self. Yes, we're all consenting adults. So I don't think this is a matter of right and wrong, as the question was asked. I really think this is a matter of what will be effective for your dynamic. And if the submissive is being trained by the dominant to have more self-control, to not be so selfish with their desires, then I would reason that dressing provocatively and forcing your submissive to stay present mentally with you and focus could be a point of training. So are we trying to negotiate or are we trying to train as part of this? What is the actual goal here? Absolutely, it's going to shift. So you have to determine what's the goal. And these elements, will they hinder or completely sabotage the goal of each? So, does that make sense, everyone? And I agree with you, Clover King. Opportunity to grow in emotional discipline, intelligence. Absolutely. So, making sense. Anyone have any other thoughts that they would like to add to that? I need to read more into it since we cannot mind read for the asker. Yeah, and that's really it. You have to determine, this is not me, it's not black and white, it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's what's effective. Figure out the goal, and will those elements hinder the goal or help you get closer to the goal? That's really it for me. But if you all feel like I'm completely overlooking something, let me know. It's not been a problem. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And that's what I'm saying. That works for you because you don't want that power gap during the negotiation, right? You want her to not be triggered into this submissive arousal, right? And you want her to stay focused with you. And so that's your goal that I'm hearing from that context. And so it really is going to vary, nor intimidate it. Exactly. Exactly. So those are your goals. And so that's what I would say to this, to our friend here. What's the goal? And will these elements hinder? Will they prevent you from reaching that goal? Being submissive, drunk, but with training and overtime, that shouldn't be as much of a problem. I agree. I agree with that. And that's what I'm saying. This has to, I would say, be determined by the dominant. The dominant's going to have a certain level of awareness about their submissive to know, okay, they literally are incapable of focusing right now. Their submissive high is so intense, like you're talking about, that they can't focus right now. So again, if the goal is to focus, to really get down to business, to negotiate through some things, then yes, be mindful about how stimulated your submissive is. Absolutely. Great add-on, Kitten Ray. All right. Second question here. Is Arlie here? No. All right. But Arlie, here is what the question is. I would like to know more about the start of a relationship as a femdom. If you meet subs in real life as colleagues, I never know how to go further. While I do know how to do so in clubs or at events, it's always easy. The problem only occurs if I meet them in real life. And I think that that is very understandable. I mean, if you're going to a kink event, if you're going to a club, if you're going to a sex party or anything like that, the expectations have already kind of been set that everyone is there to enjoy or partake in some way. But then if you step into a vanilla context, especially at work or something, there's a lot more risk because you don't really know, are they picking up on what I'm picking up on? Are they doing it on purpose? Are they kinky? Are they not kinky? Like, there's so many variables and factors there that I think creates a lot of risk. And that's kind of the theme that I'm hearing from this question, that colleague equals risk. And then there's fear here. So I would encourage Arlie to ask yourself to really dig into, what are you worried is going to happen? There is risk, but what is the risk? Is the risk just rejection by this colleague? Is the risk the colleague telling management and you possibly getting scolded or in trouble or something like that? Is the risk you losing your job? What is the risk? Because I think the strategy should be determined by the level of risk here that we're dealing with, right? Risk aware consensual kink. And so when we're dealing with, like I just said, a kink event, play party, sex party, whatever, we already know kind of the unspoken expectations. Need to read the other and communicate. Yes. So if there is this risk, dig into that first. What's the fear? And then I have a couple just points of strategy for you here. So the first one is kind of like what Jay is saying, slowly explore and pay attention to what I'm about to say. Pay attention to what I'm about to say. Slowly explore contextually appropriate acts of submission. Start there with contextually appropriate acts of submission. What do I mean by that? Well, if let's say, okay, I had a submissive who worked at a library one time. And so let's just take that. The submissive works at the library. And let's say this is a coworker and she's highly dominant. And she's kind of reading the room, reading the energy, picking up on this submissive person or kind of this person that she's feeling that submissive energy from, that submissive kind of response from. Try contextually appropriate acts of submission. So we're just testing the waters right now. We're just kind of feeling it out. And so let's say in the context of a library, maybe it is you drop a book and see if this person picks it up for you and hands it to you. Or maybe you say, oh, I'm really swamped. I didn't have a chance to do that. Could you go do this errand for me? Or could you go put these books away for me? Whatever. Get a little dominant with it if you're trying to read the room and start exploring with contextually appropriate asks. Okay? You guys getting it so far? Picking up what I'm throwing down? Then I would say after that, because and that could take a while. I'm not putting a timeline on that or really any advice that I give because it's all very organic, right? BDSM is not a closet to come out of. It's a buffet to choose from. I feel like the question read from a submissive perspective. It actually, she stated, was a FemDom. I would like to know more about the start of a relationship as a FemDom. When I meet subs in real life as colleagues, I never know how to go further. Yeah. So this is written from a FemDom perspective, but that would be the first thing. Try just feeling it out with contextually appropriate. We're not trying to gag him. We're not trying to make him crawl around the library with a book in his mouth. You know what I mean? Like contextually appropriate. And maybe that day will come and you can do that. But start there. Start slow. It's more exploration. The next thing is ask to talk or go out after work. Okay. We do not want to have these conversations at work. And especially if it's a FemDom asking me this question, that's a great way to subtly exert your interest, your authority, even by literally just inviting another conversation outside of a work context. So keep it, again, contextually appropriate, very subtle. Something like, I've noticed that you seem to enjoy listening to me or helping me or assisting me, etc. Am I correct? Just start there. I'm reading this from you. Am I accurate? And if they say with a book in your mouth, right? I mean, that's a great way to spend some time at the library. You'd be so lucky. So if you ask this kind of exploratory question, hey, I've noticed that, when I ask you to do things, you kind of smile. You seem to really enjoy it. You seem to really be kind of responding to my energy. Do you want to get together and kind of talk about it? Do you want to go out for a drink? Do you want to go out after work and just chill? We're trying to take the pressure off. We're trying to make this as subtle and a little sneaky. But really the key is we need to build that sense of safety. Like we need to build this sense of we're not just colleagues. Something else might be going on beneath the surface. And I don't think that can happen as thoroughly as it should in the context of work. So I would say after you start slowly exploring contextually appropriate acts of dominance and submission. Then bring it up. I've noticed you want to go out, kind of thing, just hang out. And then, let's say you are hanging out, bring it up again. Would you like to discuss this more? Have you heard the terms dominant and submissive before? What does that mean to you? Because you seem to be leaning a little submissive and I seem to be leaning a little dominant, and there might be something fun that we have between us. But we're taking the pressure off and we're really just slowly trying to explore. Does that make sense? And we're also not putting any pressure. Would you be willing to discuss more? Would you be interested in discussing this more? That's really it. Not would you be willing? We want interest. We want excitement. We want arousal. And so, would you be interested in discussing this more? And that really is going to give you a lot of direction, because they could easily shut you down right there. Like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So, no, that's okay. But it's not like, is this mostly about yes, that's what the question was, is how do you move if you find a submissive person that you feel leans submissive, feel is responding to you in a vanilla context, like colleagues at work was the specific. A man would be insane to even touch this with a female coworker. Yeah, and that's what I got. That this was the FemDom. This is a FemDom. This is a FemDom. Yeah. So that's yeah. That's why I'm saying you're right. The rules are different. The rules are different. But that's why I'm saying keep it separated from work. Keep it separated from work as much as possible. But really the same kind of principle applies. Like if you meet someone in any sort of vanilla context, we don't want to trigger anyone. We don't want to scare anyone away. We don't want to create an issue that shouldn't be there. And so go slow, contextually appropriate, discovery, exploratory, things like that. So yes, FemDom asking this question, but I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you, Kraken. All right. Anyone have any other thoughts that they would like to add? All right. If not, we're moving on to our next question. And this is coming in from Ember. Ember, my dear. All right. So Ember asks, do you have any advice for those of us who are still working on ourselves and have difficulty remembering our worth during moments when we are asking for more and get cold feet? Great question, Ember. I'm trying to get my needs met. I'm trying to communicate what I need. But I'm scared. I don't want to. It feels intimidating. It feels scary, right? So here's the thing. This is really an identity issue. This is really an identity issue. It's not about confidence is the aftermath. Confidence or lack thereof is the aftermath of your identity. And so if you feel like you're not worth taking up more space, you're going to have a really hard time trying to take up more space. And so that's really the thing. What do you believe you deserve, Ember? And this is not, I'm not asking you to answer right now. Just think about it. What do you actually believe you think you deserve? Not what you should think or what you should feel or what you should believe, but right here, right now, what do you believe about what you deserve? What do you believe about what you deserve? Because here's the thing. We accept the love and treatment we think we deserve. Okay? Let me just say that again. We accept the love and treatment we think we deserve. So if you think that if your value is so low that you don't deserve anything more than breadcrumbs, you don't deserve anything more than the bare minimum, then you're going to approach that conversation with this internal need that you have, but it's going to be attached to this lack of value, this lack of worth. And that's what's creating this back and forth kind of juxtaposition of, I have these needs, but I don't want to say anything. I have these needs, but So I just fall into the pitfall of seeing effort and appreciating it at a time, and I feel hungry for more. I realize I need to reflect. Seeing effort and appreciating it at a time. I don't think that's, here's the thing. You can see effort. Okay, listen. You can see effort and appreciate effort. But don't let the appreciation gaslight you out of what you need. Okay? I'm not going to be able to repeat that in the same way. Go back and watch the replay. But if you feel like you're seeing this effort, you appreciate it, but then seeing it and appreciating gets you to silence yourself, that's not appreciation, that's codependency and guilt and shame, honey. Right? So you can see effort, you can appreciate effort, but if that effort ain't cutting it for you, if that effort isn't enough for you to feel fulfilled, then you can appreciate the effort, but you cannot act like you're receiving on a level that you need. Because then you're going to be lying. You're going to be lying to yourself. You're going to be gaslighting yourself. You're going to be lying or gaslighting your partner as well. The most loving thing that you could do to yourself, for yourself, and for the person that you're with is be honest. Hey, I appreciate your effort. I see your effort, and I thank you for that effort, and I want to honor that effort. But I also have to tell you, the effort is over here, and I still have this need. And so I appreciate the effort, but it's not meeting my need. And you can say that. You can see the effort. You can appreciate the effort. They can be honest that the effort isn't meeting your need. Because sometimes people need to be faced with the awareness that all of their work, all of their effort is either misplaced or not enough. And so that's about self-love. That's about a boundary with yourself. It's getting better. I believe I deserve a lot, but I don't know. Sometimes I get shy. I don't think my own worth is quite as low as it was in my mind. Okay. So good. Good. I'm glad that we're making strides there. But we accept the love and treatment we think we deserve. And so if you're feeling shy sometimes, this might just be new territory for you. But I would advise you to work on building your muscles in this area, okay? In a couple of little ways. And these little ways are, number one, reduce or remove opportunities for comparison. Okay? Reduce or remove opportunities for comparison. Okay? And often with how culture is right now, this is really about purging your social media, honey. What's getting in so much? What's getting in? Are you following and letting your soul feed on things that are making you feel insecure, unworthy, not enough? Purge. Purge. Purge yourself. Purge your soul of the opportunity for comparison. If they come up, they come up, and you can deal with them at that time. But why create more work for yourself than you have to? Yes, I have people who like judge me. Then why are you following? Why are you following? And why are you letting them follow you? Block is a thing. Ban is a thing. Unfriending is a thing. Unsubscribing is a thing. Not social media. Boundaries is a thing. just in general, boundaries is a thing. And so you need to reduce or remove these opportunities for compare and despair. Compare and despair, because if you have people that'll belittle you, judge you, make you feel like you're not worthy, you're going to feed on that. You're going to feed on that. Your subconscious is going to feed on that. You're going to hear that and you're going to feed on that. And in those moments where you want to ask for more, but you're not sure, it feels awkward, it feels scary, I'm taking a risk, vulnerability is a risk, those thoughts from those people are going to come back going, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are for asking for that? And it's that kind of thing. And so we don't want any people in our life, in our inner circle, that's going to give us that message. Who are you to ask for more? Who do you think you are? No, we want people in our inner circle surrounding us that'll be like, yes, you do deserve more. I see your value. I see your identity. I see who you are. And you are loved and you are worthy and you have value and you have every right to ask for more than breadcrumbs. You have every right to take up space. You have every right to assert yourself. You have every right to have your needs and desires met too in a relationship. You have that right. Right? Supposed to purge them as a whole or place a boundary. Here's the thing. What if you're jumping ahead too much? Because you're saying, I'm not sure whether to purge them as a whole or place a boundary over that specific thing. Here's the thing. People are not the sum of a whole. This whole grouping and polarization and all of these little cliques and you belong in this group, but you have to speak like this or wear this or talk, all of these things. It's polarizing people and it's taking individual identity away from someone and it's making them, if you look like this, you're in this group and therefore we can define this entire group by these things. It's horribly abusive to people. It's horribly destructive and it's happening everywhere. So what you're saying, whether you're supposed to purge them as a whole, no. Don't ever treat a set of 3 individuals as a whole. If individual A is being crazy, have something happen with individual A, but do not punish B and C for A. Because B and C, just because they're connected to A, don't make them A. A is A, B is B, C is C. We're all individuals. So we can't have this pack-like polarizing, everyone is the sum of a whole, therefore we can judge them and label them and define. No. So you have to determine if person A is violating you, how are they violating you and how do you want that to stop? Then we move on to person B. How is person B violating you and how do you want that to stop? Then we move on to person C. And then we determine that, but it is not the sum of a whole. It is the most destructive thing happening in our society right now, and y'all better knock it off. Because this is harming people who you don't even know. But because they follow so-and-so on Twitter, we get to hate them. Because they like somebody's post that we don't agree with, we can hate them. Individual identity is what brings value back to people. And Ember, you have that individual identity and you have the power to set boundaries with people individually. All right. So, reduce, remove opportunities for comparison, and then reinforce your standards or boundaries through external validation. See, we're not looking for other people's approval, but if you have messages out there, healthy messages out there that say you are loved, you are worthy, you have value, you have the right to show up for yourself, let those voices validate you. You have to feed. It's like that old analogy. There are 2 dogs in a fight, 2 wolves in a fight, whatever you want to call it. And then it's what dog wins? The dog that's stronger, the dog you feed more. What are you feeding? What are you feeding your soul? Your soul is your mind, your will, your emotions. What are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your soul? What are you feeling? Your emotions, your mind, your choices. And so we want to reduce or remove opportunities to feed on insecurity and comparison. That was the first thing. We're going to starve that dog. Then we're going to feed the other dog, which is reinforcing your standards, boundaries, your external validation. Find accounts, psychologists that validate that you have worth, you have value, you have the right to stand up for yourself in a relationship. The Holistic Psychologist is a great resource. We talk about personal development school all the time here. That's a great resource. Another great YouTube account is the Crappy Childhood Fairy. If you find these voices, these psychologists, the professionals, okay, and they say, hey, Ember, you're worth more. Listen to that. Let that validate you. Oh, good. Wonderful, Ember. Good, good, good. I'm glad that this is kind of related. But am I making sense? We're feeding one, we're starving the other. Okay? And you're gonna let those voices validate you. Let those professionals who say, hey, this is breadcrumbs, let that sink in. Oh, this is breadcrumbs. I deserve more. I deserve better. But really, Ember, at the end of the day, you have to push back. You got to push back, baby. And if you acknowledge a desire, if you acknowledge a need, and you are in relationship with somebody, think about it, everyone. Think about this. Relationships should create intimacy, into me you see, in varying degrees, depending on how we're operating in that relationship, you know. But into me you see, connection. Here's the thing. If you are in relationship with someone and the goal is connection, you should feel both free and safe to go, hey, this is what I need from you. If you don't feel free and safe to go to the person with whom your relationship in, you don't feel safe, you don't feel free to do that. You feel like, how's this going to be achieved? Why are you calling it a relationship? Why are you calling it a relationship? Because clearly there's not connection. So what is it? Because you're desperate? Okay. Well, goes back to identity. We accept the love and treatment we think we deserve. If you're so desperate to connect with anything or anybody, you feel obligated. Okay. Desperate, obligation. Okay. Manipulation. We not put that together. If you feel obligated by somebody, they are trying to control you out of your own will. They're trying to gaslight you out of your own will. I need you to understand that. Obligation is manipulation. Everyone repeat after me. Type it in the chat. Obligation is manipulation. Obligation is manipulation. Because here's the thing. You should want to spend time with the people in your life. And if you don't want to spend time with the people in your life, why are they in your life? Why are they in your life? If the purpose for relationship is to connect, and we don't feel free and safe to connect, and they're making us feel obligated to connect with them in order to manipulate us out of our own will, out of our own sense of safety, out of our own boundary, why are they even in your life? Because she is your mom? Okay. So I'm just going to tell you a little story. You want a little Miss Elle story time? A little Miss Elle story time? Kraken said that was a joke, but I don't care. I still have a story. You feel like it's been drilled so deeply in you? Yeah? Okay. It's not that you want... I know. And maybe if Moon Pie is willing to talk to you about this, Ember, talk to Moon Pie about this. Moon Pie, would you be willing to chat with Ember about this? Because Moon Pie has been in similar situations and has made amazing strides to setting boundaries with her family. And so I feel like you guys have a lot in common, and I would love for the two of you to connect and talk about that. So that's what I would recommend. Ember, Moon Pie. Moon Pie said she's absolutely willing to talk to you. So how about you two chat it out, work it out, just the two of you as friends? Because I think there's a lot of beauty and health and healing in that. Okay. Yes. It's wonderful for the soul. Great. Excellent. Excellent. But my quick story. So my for those of you who really don't know, I until the last 6-7 years was in chronic trauma and abuse. And one of the abusers was my mother. She allowed things to happen to me as a child that she should have protected me from. And she lied and manipulated and then made me defend the person later on. There was a lot of gaslighting and manipulation. There was a lot of control. There was a lot of horrible, horrible toxicity and abuse in a number of ways, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, relationally. And I realized at 18 that that's never going to change. She doesn't realize. She doesn't realize. I mean, this is the full-blown narcissistic mother. Full-blown narcissistic mother with borderline personality disorder. And if you have borderline, I'm not attacking you. I'm not judging you. I love you. And that often happens because you've been through trauma, you've survived trauma. But in my particular situation, it was incredibly, incredibly abusive. I was the mother of the home. I was making sure that she would not commit suicide. I was the one that would feed her, take care of her, take care of the house, pack her husband's lunches. And that was what I grew up in. Toxicity, abuse, manipulation, control, narcissism, belittling, all kinds of just awful, awful, horrible things. And I realized, she doesn't even realize this. It's all me, my fault. So no, I'm not willing to have that kind of relationship with someone who's my mother, right? So I set a boundary. And I'm not going to go into details, but I'll just say I set a boundary. And one of the things that I said is I will not call you mom or mother. If you would like to start trying to rebuild relationship with me, I refuse to call you mom or mother. I'm not ready for that. We do not have that relationship. You know what she said back to me? My own mother. I know what she said to me? She said, if you don't call me mom, if you call me by my name again, we're not having a relationship. She was willing to forego a relationship with her daughter because she was unwilling to respect my boundary. Okay? And so, yeah. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. This is the same woman that kicked me out of my house 2 weeks before my high school graduation without a dime to my name, saying that the benefits that I got from my dad's death, the money payments every month that I was getting from my dad's death that happened when I was 10, that was money for my future. She kicks me out 2 weeks before my high school graduation and says, you're on your own. You're no longer welcome in my home. And all of that money that you got from your dad's death, no, that's not yours. You're never going to see a cent of that. That's the money that you owe us for raising you. So you want to talk to me about toxic parents and how you can't set boundaries? You want to talk to me about obligation. You want to talk to me how impossible this is, right? Okay. So here's the thing. Everyone hold up. I know I'm badass. I know I'm amazing. I am not looking for validation from anyone. I know I made the exact right choice and it was the best choice I ever made. What I'm trying to communicate is I've been there. And cutting ties with toxic people is one of the most healthy things that you can do. Okay? So I don't care who they are to you. I don't care what relationship, if it's a mother, if it's a father, and they're abusing you. No one gets the right to abuse you just because they have the right title. And that's basically what you're saying. Because she has the right title, she's allowed to abuse me. Now, if it was a stranger, I wouldn't let them abuse me because it's a stranger. They don't have the title, but she has the title mom. And because she has the right title, she has the right to abuse me. That's exactly the logic that's happening right now. I'm just calling a duck a duck. But listen to me. Anyone listening to the sound of my voice, just because they have the right title, just because they're in a position of leadership or authority over you or influence over you, does not mean they have the right to abuse you. When you are following someone with the right title, you should be following them because you trust them and you see protection and safety in them. You see servant leadership and health and vitality in them. You see wisdom in them. You don't see toxicity and abuse and violation. All right? Picking up what I'm throwing down, everyone. And gambled it away. Yep. Absolutely. So, Ember, just because they have the right title does not mean they have the right to abuse you. All right? All right, Ready, Set, Jet. I love that name, by the way. Ready, Set, Jet. Are you a world traveler? Do you have wanderlust? Ready, Set, Jet. Absolutely. You teach people how to treat you. That's right. That's right. All right. Of course you do. Wonderful. Where would you like to go next? Ready, Set, Jet. All right. Ember, if you're good, do you feel seen and heard and loved, my dear? All right, because we're about to move on to Raven's question, which is a nice little juicy question. Need to think on this and rewatch later. Rewatch. Oh, nice, Leo. Well, I'm so glad you're here, Leo. Welcome. The Alp seems exciting. Ooh, nice. All right, Raven's question is, could you shed some light on the difference between submissive training and behavior modification? In a video from a year ago, you mentioned that it's important to delineate between sub-training and behavior modification. Doesn't sub-training entail behavior modification? Great question. I know. Good question, right? So yes, sub-training often includes behavior modification, but they are different. It can include, submissive training can include behavior modification, but it doesn't have to. It's like not all hot tubs are jacuzzis, but jacuzzis are hot. You know that thing? Okay. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So let me break it down. And I'm just going to use like a little example here with little Miss E. Little Miss E, I know I already asked you, but for the chat, tell them that you have given me permission to share these things. Okay. They can't hear you, hunty. There we go. Okay. Consent is important. So here we go, everyone. I'm just going to use an example, a couple examples that I have run into with little Miss E. So when it comes to submissive training, an example of submissive training would be like my big walk-in closet that I mentioned the other day. Big walk-in closet, and I have everything in very strategic locations. And yes, Amber, I know, I still have forgotten. I understand. I knew she was going there. I saw her typing. Okay. So, right, I can't give you a closet tour right now because little Missy hasn't cleaned it yet. So, okay, here's the analogy between submissive training and behavior modification. So, submissive training would be, hey, I tasked little Miss E with organizing. Why are you wincing? Organizing my closet, putting all of my clothes away. And she put, okay, like this actually happened. So I wasn't super specific in a couple of areas. I didn't actually take the time to like show her where everything was. And so in a couple of situations, she had like my bodysuits over where my dresses were. And then she had sweatshirts that should be folded over in my long sleeve section. And it was confusing. And so submissive training would be to literally train her how to organize my space. Think of like, it's like job training. You have this new job and you need to go through training to know how to effectively do that job, right? And it's the dominant who tells you whether that's effective or not. It's the dominant who says, this is your job description, so to speak, and I'm going to train you to do those things. I'm going to train you this to how I like my clothes folded, how I like my towels folded, all of those. We're training specific ways of doing things, okay? When it comes to behavior modification, that is taking an unpleasant, unsavory behavior that is currently present in the submissive and modifying it from one behavior to a more desired behavior. So, in this situation, just a sec. So, in this situation, another example with behavior modification would be when little Miss E gets, I would say, in her head about something or anxious or stressed, there's some sort of trigger going on. She has a tendency to like reduce the actual decibel level of her voice and like mumble her words. And it's like her way of getting small because she feels like she's taking up too much space. Pisses me the fuck off. Because every 5 seconds, I'm going, I'm sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry, what did you say? And it's incredibly annoying. That is a behavior that I, as the dominant, can't fucking stand. Because one, she shouldn't be reducing herself to that level anyway, because I never demand that of her. And two, it makes me mad because I have to ask you, what'd you say? And we have to go through this, and it's a waste of time, and it's annoying, and I don't like it. And so that would be a point of behavior modification, where I would state, okay, that little mumbling thing that you do where you're that, we're going to knock that off. So next time I see that happen, you're going to get punished for that. I'm going to have to correct you on that behavior. Behavior modification has a correction element. Well, so does training. So does training. Training also has a correction element. It's not about a correction element because they both do. If I'm training her to fold my clothes and she starts folding them, I'm like, no, that's not how we do it. Remember, this is how we do it. But it's not something that I want to remove as a behavior. It's training her how to do a task. Whereas behavior modification is telling her to not do that task or to do that task. Does that make sense? I'm going to give you all a minute. Behavior feels self-oriented for the person's habits in certain states where training is about a specific action, which may or may not be self-related. I guess. Yeah, maybe. But really, make it very, very simple. Submissive training often includes behavior modification, but it doesn't have to. Behavior modification is what to do, and training is how to do it. Essentially, yes. Essentially, yes. In the case of submissive training, with the analogy that I use, I'm telling her how to do something. I'm training her how to do something. With the voice thing, I'm telling her, don't do that. Don't do that thing. Do this thing instead. And then if she doesn't know how to do that thing instead, then I train her how to do that thing. Training is how, behavior modification is what, essentially. Training is how, modification is what. Does that make sense? I'm trying to get it as very, very basic for you as I can, Raven. The piano, music, while certain things, social, associate those things when she hears. I think that's great. Oh, yeah. I worked with a dominant who was doing that with my words are eluding me. Ringtone. There we go. Ringtone on the phone. And he set his submissive's ringtone up to be a certain thing. And so he would also play that cue at home and do submissive, do yes things like to cue it, right? But when she would be at work in a meeting or something, call her, he'd ding, that alert, that chime, that ringtone would go off. And absolutely, we had a conditioned arousal response built into it. And I think that's great. I think that's absolutely great. It takes consistency to do that. But yeah, it's super effective. Yeah, great add-on, Kraken. Great add-on. Job training comparison is helpful. Good. Yes, I love what Moon Pie said. Training is how to do it. Behavior modification is what. Behavior modification is what to do. Training is how to do it. All right. The time we got 7:20. All right. I think we can get through like 2 more questions. I'm going to try to get through 2 more questions, and whatever questions that we do not get to, because I've got Jay with this next one, and then we've got Amber X, Clover King, Moon Pie, and Preacher Dom. If I don't get to yours today, we'll get to it next time. Okay. Sometimes my camera isn't there you go. Sensory elements are super, super powerful. Super powerful. Why is my camera so blurry, you guys? Hold on. It's not. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. You're not blurry? Not anymore. I know. It's trying to readjust. You were not. I'm not now. All right. So, actually, I hate to do this. I hate to do this because I'm really trying to honor you all in like how these questions came in and address them in order. But I feel like Moon Pie's question is time sensitive. And I want to jump into that. I want to jump into Moon Pie's question because I do think it's far more time sensitive than any of the other questions that came in. And if you all can help me love on her by giving me the freedom to do that, I would really appreciate that. A little, but I don't want to cut the line. You know what? It's not cutting if I say, come here. Is it? So let's get to Moon Pie's question real fast. All right. And I don't think anyone's going to be fussy with you. If they're fussy with you, then they can be fussy with me, and I'll shut that shit down real fast. How about that, Moon Pie? For my question getting tipped, I would have no problem. Very sweet of you, Kraken. All right, here we go. Moon Pie, Moon Pie. Moon Pie's question is, I need a little help. Before the move, our nearest neighbor was almost a quarter mile away. We now live in an apartment and play has become wildly awkward. To say I'm not quiet is an understatement, and I'm super self-conscious of the fact that we have neighbors on the other side of the bedroom wall. We've tried to play a few times and it's not ended well. I'm so worried that if I'm vocal, they'll hear me and that I can't let myself relax. My dom is frustrated that I'm not able to focus on us and I feel like I'm letting him down. I don't know how to relax when I'm worried about being heard. Any tips? Great question, Moon Pie. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this right now, though, sweetie. I have a few suggestions that I think will help you, though, because let's just call a duck a duck. That's a transition. That is a big transition. From going to a quarter mile property to an apartment, that is a transition. So my heart goes out to you because that's a big shift. No wonder you're having so many issues with this. No wonder you're so in your head about this. So I have some things that I think will absolutely help you out with this. Some strategies. I want you to go back, try them out, come back, tell me how they're working. We can always troubleshoot again with you. All right, Moon Pie, does that sound good? All right. Going from that degree of freedom to drive you crazy. I know, right? I know. So here we go. It certainly is an issue. Okay, so this is going to help multiple people. So if I'm asking Moon Pie to think about something, then any of you who are in a confined space in an apartment having these issues as well, do the work too. Do the work too. Answer these questions for yourself too. But the first thing I want to point out is, Moon Pie, this is how you described your current relationship with them. Awkward, wildly awkward, self-conscious, can't relax, worry about being heard. My question for you, my dear, what will happen if you are? What will happen if you are heard? In your mind, where is your mind going? Because you have a fear here. Awkward, self-conscious, can't relax, worried, that's all fear-based. So fear, there's a fear going on. What are you afraid of? What are you worried will happen? Your neighbors might not like you. Okay, so let's just break this down. You are restricting and reducing your own voice, limiting the connection with your husband and dominant because you want a stranger that you've never met and you're not even sure if you like them, but you don't want them to dislike you. What if they just don't like you? What if they're just not friendly people and they're not going to like you no matter what you do? Because you can't get people to like you. What you're doing right now, though, is you're passively trying to get your neighbors to like you, but at the cost of your own pleasure and connection with your husband. What is more important? These random people you've never met liking you? What does their opinion matter? Perhaps they will hear you having fun and want to join. Okay. But that's irrelevant, really. How to overcome the embarrassment feeling. I want to hear from Moon Pie. I want to hear from Moon Pie. I thought you were concerned they would call the police, right? That would have been, but that's why I wanted to dig into this. Is there's a fear, there's a worry, and oftentimes when we have these anxieties, these fears, these worries, they're actually not grounded in reality. And so that's what I'm trying to bring to you, Moon Pie, is I feel bad that he gave up all his friends and I want him to make, okay, so this is really about identity, Moon Pie. This is really about identity, honey. Ember, look at the student up in here, Ember. Yes. So Moon Pie, here's the thing. The fear is not actually the fear. What you're worried about is not what you're actually worried about. What you just told me is the root of everything. You all, it's not about the neighbors. Okay? We just learned that. It's not actually about the noise, it's not actually about the neighbors. I feel bad that he gave up all his friends for you, right? This was your move, your job, right? Yeah. So you feel guilty. That's what I'm hearing. You feel guilty? Big time? Okay. So it all comes back to identity and value. If you valued yourself and you thought that your career was just as valid as your husband's, you would not be feeling guilty right now. There's some part of you that's thinking husband's career, husband's opportunities are more important or valid than mine. And I actually did something bad as a woman and as a wife by progressing in my career. And my supportive husband was actually not being supportive. He was just doing it just because he loves me. And then he's going to grow to resent me because I made him leave all of his friends. And now I have to silence myself and kill the connection sexually because I want to be quiet enough so that our neighbors that we've never met will like us and then want to be friends with us so that I won't feel as guilty for making my husband move. That's really what this is, honey. It has nothing to do with kink. It has nothing to do with you being heard. It's like you're in my head. Because I am a little bit. I have special skills. But that's really what it is, honey. So we need to get to the bottom of that and address that. So why don't you start there? Because I have some practicals that are specific to the kink experience, but the root is different. The root is very different. And so I would encourage you, Moon Pie. We go and chat it up. Good. I would encourage you, Moon Pie, to be vulnerable and tell your husband what you just shared with me. Cry, get emotional, whatever it is, but you need to be vulnerable. And you need to give him the opportunity to soothe you, to validate you, and to comfort you. But right now, this guilt is actually alienating you. And so I want you to step back into connection, okay? Because we got to protect this. And right now, the guilt is doing this, right? And it's just manifesting in your sex life. It's just manifesting in your dynamic. But that's really what this is it's the guilt. It's guilt and shame. Guilt and shame, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, severs connection. So that's why we don't use guilt and shame as tactics in relationship. We don't use guilt and shame to motivate. We do not use guilt and shame to change behavior ever, ever, ever. You use guilt and shame to change someone's behavior, you are controlling and you are a bully. So let's do that, Moon Pie. Are you willing to be brave and do a little homework for me? I would like... Okay, Ember. This is what we just talked about the other day in main chat, honey. Ember. If you were paying attention, it was relevant to the conversation. And you were gonna ask me what with 3 question mark? What? I didn't say it like that. Well, Kraken, I was paying attention. Do you see how it could so easily be interpreted that way, and then people can interpret it and get defensive? Do you see that? You see the little thing that just happened? I was offended. Kraken got offended just now. So, you two, hug it out. Work it out. Okay. Amber, Kraken. Didn't mean that. Anyone? But here's the thing. Kraken, I understand why you got defensive there. I interpreted it the same way. Let me talk about offense for a moment. If you are offended, it is your choice. No one's behavior has the power to offend you. No one's words have the power to offend you. What someone chooses to say or not say does not have the power to offend you. How someone voted in the last election does not have the power to offend you. If you're offended, that's on you, bro, because you gave up your power. You said, because I don't agree with this person, they have the power to get under my skin. I'm not powerful enough to be secure and still love that person. I'm going to be offended instead. And I'm going to feel more powerful in my offense. No, if you're offended, you gave up your power. Because that person now has control over your mind and your emotions. And you think that's power being offended? You think that makes you an activist by constantly being offended? Check yourself. Powerlessness. Powerlessness. You know how many times I have the opportunity to be horrifically offended? Even by some of you cuties. And what do? None of you even know. I just keep loving you. Why? Because I'm fucking powerful. And so are you. But for you to tell me, they offended me. No. You're giving away all of your power to them. Okay. Had to get that one off my chest. All right. So, picking up what I'm throwing down, everyone. Picking up what I'm throwing down. All right. So, back to Moon Pie. Here, take a second. I agree, Clover. I agree. I absolutely agree with you on that. So, where is Moon Pie? Moon Pie, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Sit down with your husband. Be vulnerable. And say, I just realized that I've been feeling really guilty about this move. And tell him how you feel. I feel bad that I took you away from all your friends, and I'm afraid that you're going to resent me. I feel whatever it is. Be honest. Be honest and vulnerable. Cry it out. Let him hold you. Let him comfort you. Let him validate you. You're trying to manage this on your own, and it's not your burden to manage on your own. This is data that your husband and your dominant need. So can we do that, Moon Pie? You willing to be brave and have that initial conversation and just be vulnerable? Not really dug deep into it. Okay. I think it's really important for you to say, I'm feeling guilty about this move. Whatever else is related to that, I feel like I don't know, took control, or I feel like I took you away from all of your friends, or whatever. Be that vulnerable. So like be like emotional, vulnerable. Like show the emotion. Show him how you're feeling. Okay. That's the first one. Then I would say if you guys are going to play, keep trying to play, which I absolutely think you should. Try sensory things that'll get you fully present again. That's what I would tell your husband, your dominant, if he was working with me. Try some sensory things to get her out of her head and back into her body. And as far as you becoming just more comfortable with the other noises, the way, your noise carries, all of that. If you need a transition time, I think that's okay too. So it could be things like wearing a gag, kind of being muffled by a pillow, even putting on some good music or a rainstorm with some thunder and the heavy rain, and turn that on loud. Better your neighbors hear a rainstorm, right? But if you're just kind of in a quiet apartment, there's no music, there's no rainstorm, you're going to get more in your head about it. So I would say that look for opportunities or ways that maybe you could kind of muffle some sound as you become accustomed to this. I'm not saying stay there. I don't want you to stay in this state, but if you need a transition, it's a big transition going from a quarter mile to an apartment. So try that. A gag, being muffled by a pillow, turning on some sexy music with some good heavy beats to it, or a rainstorm, a thunderstorm. Music and a loud TV, yeah. Another idea, Moon Pie, you said that you were playing in the bedroom and that the neighbors are right on the other side of the wall. What if for a short period of time you didn't play in the bedroom, but you played more in the centralized location of the apartment, often the living space, where you feel like it's not just right on the other side of the wall? Would that be an option as well? I don't know how your apartment is laid out, but that might be an option depending on the layout, going to more of a centralized location. And, honestly, my advice to your dominant, there's really no way for you, Moon Pie, to control this. But again, if I was working with your dominant, and feel free to, is on an outside wall, that could work. Okay, there you go. There you go. That's wonderful. So the final thing that I would say that I would recommend for your dominant, Moon Pie, would be to you can do some soundproofing depending on how you put them on the walls, how they adhere to the walls. It could maybe do some damage. So just make sure it's compatible with your lease agreement. But that's also a great idea, Preacher Dom. Yeah. Yeah. And it could be part of like how you decorate your space, Great idea. But my final piece of advice that I would say to your dominant, Moon Pie, would be to start training you around some vocal exercises. So what comes to mind right off the bat, just for analogy purposes, Moon Pie, have you seen the movie Secretary? You love Secretary? Yes, once. Okay. Well, I don't know if you'll remember this from the movie Moon Pie since you've only seen it once, but there's this scene where he calls the submissive into his office because apparently she had been answering the phones in a way that he did not like. He did not prefer. She was too quiet, too timid, maybe mumbling a little bit. So the dominant here, the OG, Mr. Gray, did a little vocal exercise. Bring, bring, and made her role play answering the phone. And so she picked it up. Hi, you've reached the office of Mr. E. Edward Gray. He goes, no. You can get a much bigger voice out of that tiny throat of yours. The phone is ringing. And he tries it again. And then by the end of it, she's like, hello, you've reached the office of Mr. E. Edward Gray. And it's through this really sweet, nurturing training moment that the dominant led her through that she was able to literally find her voice and take up that space. So maybe that is an option for your dominant here, Moon Pie. Bring that up and just see if he comes up with any ideas for you where he is telling you, he's training you how to take up that space, how to be loud in a way that doesn't trigger you or feel scary or insecure. Does that make sense? You have a few really great opportunities here to really deepen your dynamic and really take your training as his submissive to a deeper level. You've got some really, really great opportunities here. Maybe we'll watch it together. Awesome. So have that conversation. Try out some of the practical things that we discussed. A gag, being muffled by a pillow, loud music, TV, a rainstorm, soundproofing panels on the walls, and even playing in the more centralized location of your apartment as you get used to it. Moon Pie. Did I help you out? A lot. Wonderful. Wonderful, Moon Pie. All right. So, let's see. Jay is here. Okay, Jay. Okay, Jay. We're going to get to your question and then we're going to wrap it up with Jay's question. All right, and then the rest of you, two more questions that came in, I will get to you next time, next live. All right. So, who we get into next time? Amber X, Clover King, and Preacher Dom X. I will get to you next live. Just we had questions that were submitted before yours came in. We good with that, Amber X, Clover King, and Preacher Dom X? You willing to be a little patient with me? Wait till next session. All right. We are going to Jay's question now. Thank you so much, Preacher Dom. Love you so much. All right. So Jay, my friend, here we go. Jay's question. Me and thank you, Clover King. Appreciate you. So Jay's question. Me and my mistress, which is mostly online due to our living apart. So far we negotiated orgasm control. I'm not into complete orgasm denial. That would actually be a hard limit for me. But we negotiated no more than 2 to 3 days without orgasm, but she gets to choose how I orgasm. The problem is for the last 4 days, we haven't had too much time to chat. She barely actually sent me a message in a day, so I couldn't get her permission to orgasm and how to, but it's been more than the time we negotiated without coming. I don't want to disappoint her, but I'm not sure what to do. For 25 years, I didn't go more than 1 day without orgasm, sometimes a few times a day, so I'm lost. Oh, hey, everybody. We might need to buckle up a little bit for this one, everybody. It's more the humiliation than the denial. You didn't ask me about humiliation. What's your question around humiliation then? Because you did not ask me about humiliation. So, we feel lost because we're not getting the submissive experience that we want. Is that fair to say? Whether it's denial or humiliation, you feel so lost because you're not getting the submissive experience that you're looking for. Is that fair to say? Or am I totally off? Because I'm going to break down what I see as J type here. It's more how than the actual denial. Okay. Let's break this down. Complete orgasm denial is a hard limit. Okay. You negotiated going 3 days maximum without having an orgasm. Currently, it's been 4 days of no contact, no orgasm, and you feel so lost. Ember, I have a feeling I know why you love this question, child. So, those are the three, just keeping it very simple and logical. Complete orgasm denial is a hard limit. 3 days max is what was negotiated. But currently, it's been 4 days without orgasm. Okay? And you feel so lost. And then you go on to say you feel so lost because for 25 years you didn't go more than 1 day. Okay, here's the thing. You're not going to die if you don't come. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very, very bottom one is food, shelter, clothing, water, right? At nowhere in there, the core needs for a human being, does it say orgasm? You'll die without food or water. You won't die without an orgasm. Okay. So let's just start there. Let's just start there. It's almost like have compassion on me because it's been 4 days since I've had an orgasm. And you're telling me, you're going, I don't want to disappoint her, but this is what we negotiated. I don't know what to do. Here's the thing. You said she's so busy. You haven't had time to chat. She barely even sent you a message. My question is, why aren't you curious? She's your dominant. You're her submissive. You normally talk and connect and she lets you get off. But it's 1 day past what was negotiated. 1 day past what was negotiated. And you're not showing any curiosity. You're not showing any curiosity as to why is she so busy? I wonder what she needs from me. How can I serve her? How can I take things off of her plate? How can I remove stressors from her so that she can have time to talk to me? And I'm kind of disappointed reading that. This is the woman that you claim to worship and honor. And there's no curiosity. It's just she hasn't had time, so I'm not getting my needs met and I feel so lost. And it does feel like a kink dispenser mentality almost. And so, Jay, I would just encourage you, this is the only context that I have, but I would encourage you, maybe look at her as a woman first and not as your dominant first. Maybe the fact that she's a woman gives her value and not the fact that she can show up for you in the way that you want or need or demand. Well, I knew she was busy, but she usually tells me how she wants it. Okay. But you didn't get that. So are you going to be submissive or not? Are you going to be submissive or not? It's very simple. Submission does not happen until there's a disagreement or conflict of wills. At no point is anyone here saying that you will never be able to orgasm for the rest of your life. So no hard limit has been broken. You negotiated 3 days. Something's going on in her life where she can't give you what you are consistently relying upon. And instead of getting submissive, instead of how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I take things off of your plate? It's me, 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 me. And that's not submissive. It's selfish. True submission does not happen until there's a disagreement or conflict of wills. That's what's happening right now. There's a conflict of wills. She can't show up for you in the way that you are expecting, that you want. You will for her to do something. She can't do that for you right now. There's a disagreement or conflict of wills, and you're not yielding. In fact, the question, actually, I interpreted the question as you were actually trying to convince me to take pity on you and tell you what a horrible, neglectful dominant she's being. And I'm not getting there with that. I'm not getting there with that. I think, my friend, lean into the submission. Submission is not about you getting an orgasm every day. Submission is about you yielding when there's a disagreement or conflict of wills. And right now that's not happening. It's all you looking at you. You looking at, I'm not getting my needs met. Me, 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 me. What about her? What about her? If you claim to love her, honor her, adore her, worship her, if she's your goddess, if she's your queen, that should actually mean something. And if your goddess and if your queen is too busy to contact you and to give you jerk off instructions, maybe we lean into that with some curiosity and a sense of submission and go, what's going on? How can I serve her? How can I take my focus off of me and put it where it belongs, on my queen, on my goddess, on this woman that I claim to honor as a powerful authority figure in my life? Submission, authentic submission, does not happen until there's a disagreement or conflict of wills. Are you going to be submissive or not? And here's the thing. If it could be a test, it could. It could absolutely be a test. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Common, but I'm not going to project any motivations on our friend Jay here. I'm trying to help Jay. Jay, I'm trying to help. You came to me for advice. I'm trying to help you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to hate on you. I'm not here to try to dissect your motivation. But from what you communicated, it is reading like a kink dispenser. It's not reading as authentic submission. And here's the thing, my friend. If you reach the point where you feel like your hard limit is being violated, then you have every right to call your safe word and to leave the dynamic. Pick. Obey, yield, be submissive, or do what you want, call your safe word, and end it. You know? Like I'm making it very black and white for a reason. Really that simple. Submission does not truly happen until there's a disagreement or conflict of wills. Right here is an opportunity. In this disagreement, in this conflict of wills. Okay? So, I'm going to let me just Let me just do some. Okay. All right. So, everyone, submission does not happen until there's a disagreement or conflict of wills. And submissives, if you're not getting your submissive desires when you want them, you have a very simple decision to make. I'm not even talking to Jay anymore. And Jay knows why. Don't you, Jay? But for the rest of you who are actually listening and wanting to learn from what I'm saying, that right there is the moment for you, submissive. That right there is the moment for you. When you have an itch, your dominant can't scratch it, at that moment, what are you going to do? Are you going to yield? Are you going to submit? Or are you going to look at your dominant as a kink dispenser and vilify them for not meeting your needs, and then taking matters into your own hands, therefore completely stepping out of submission? All right. So, do I need to say it again? Submission does not happen until there's a disagreement or conflict of wills, literally. So, as her submissive, as when you have a dominant who's very busy, who's overwhelmed, who can't give to you in the way that you need, it's not the time to victimize yourself. It's not the time to throw a pity party for yourself, submissive. That's the time to show up as a submissive. Serve your dominant. Look for ways to take those things that are creating that lack of time, that lack of energy, that lack of creativity. This is the time for you to lean into submission. And this is your time, submissives, to look for opportunities to serve your dominant, because that right there is going to build devotion in the heart of your dominant toward you. We talk a lot about devotion building in the heart of a submissive. When the dominant feels devoted to you, when you can create that sense of devotion in the heart of your dominant by showing them how well you can serve, how well you can submit, how much you want to yield, you don't think that's going to stir up some affection in your dominant's heart? You don't think it's going to inspire creativity and all kinds of things? All kinds of scene planning and experiences? But you submissives, you get stuck sometimes where you're just looking at yourself, and you don't look at the source that can meet that need if you just get outside of you for a minute. So submissives, I get it. Patience can be painful. Yielding can be painful, but like Preacher Dom is saying, anticipation can be euphoric. You choose. Is my patience painful, or is my anticipation euphoric? You can pick. You can choose, submissive. That's why consent is so powerful in the lifestyle. Consent is so powerful in the lifestyle because it's that choice. It's that choice. And you submissives have that choice all the time. Am I going to submit? Am I going to yield? Am I going to look at this denial or this necessity of me using my patience? Am I going to look at this as a painful thing? Or am I going to find pleasure in the yielding and allow the anticipation to be euphoric? Right? Dominance. Dominance. Am I right? So, submissives, your choice. Your choice. Always. Always your choice. All right. So, with that being said, let me click over here. That being said, anyone have any other thoughts they would like to add? Yes, making sense. This. All right. So I told you all that next time we're going to get with Amber X, Clover King, and Preacher Dom X, because we did not have time to get to all of your amazing questions today, but you will be the very, very first on the next live. I'm just thinking how that would work with submissive devotion with a switch. You know, really with switch dynamics, it's a lot of, obviously a lot of variables, but things can switch, move around very quickly, very, very quickly. And so I think devotion building looks different in switch dynamic, right? You would like to rephrase your question from earlier? Great, Maddie Ice, rephrase it, post it in the Ask Miss Elle channel, and I will get to it during the next Q&A. But right now, I'm going to peace out, YouTube. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Love you so much, YouTube. Again, if you would like to hang out, make friends, connect with this amazing community of like-minded, silly, down-to-earth kinksters from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, all different experience levels. This is the place to be. Come on over, patreon.com/LXerotica, and you can join us. So next Wednesday, we've got a Q&A YouTube. So if you're not already a patron subscriber, go over there because you can get access to our private community group coaching session. I know I said Q&A, it's group coaching session. We don't broadcast it anywhere else. It takes place privately here on Discord. It's a beautiful time of connection and insight and wisdom and paradigm shifting, relationship just saving, rebuilding advice and insight. So I would love for you all to join us. Go over to patreon.com/LXerotica. But if not, I will see you next time, YouTube. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And I will connect with you on Sunday. New video jumping back into our BDSM key concepts series. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you Sunday, YouTube. Night.